Hello and welcome to another episode of Every Horror Movie on Netflix, the podcast where we watch, review, and discuss every horror movie on Netflix. I'm Patrick, and I'm back here today with my friends Chris.
Hello.
And Steven.
Hi.
We are here today to discuss the 1999 Arnold Schwarzenegger Turn of the Millennium film, End of Days. But before we get into that, we're going to do our standard horror catch-up. At the beginning of every episode, we talk about what we've been watching or reading or enjoying in the horror world. So what have you guys been up to lately?
I watched We're All Going to the World's Fair.
Oh, I've been so interested in that, but after seeing Skinamarink, I'm like, I don't know if I need another experimental horror film for a while.
Yeah, it gets compared to Skinamarink a lot, which I think is a very flawed comparison. They're really not doing the same thing at all, but it is not the kind of horror movie I signed up for. I thought it was interesting, but it's more of a sort of a portrait of teen or preteen alienation and the internet than anything else. And I think it will have a lot of power for people who can relate to it in some way. And I've seen a lot of reviews where people are relating to it very profoundly. So it is kind of like Skinamarink in that what you get out of it is what you bring into the experience, because it's semi-formless otherwise. But it was interesting, and I didn't love it, and it was a little bit of a bait and switch for me. I was expecting something that was a little more meat and potatoes horror, and this felt at times more like a 2020 or a Dateline special on the internet.
What's the pitch or the basic concept?
The basic concept is there is a young girl, she's like 13 or something. She seems to have a sort of isolated and troubled life, and she gets drawn into a online trend called We're All Going to the World's Fair, which basically people are recording themselves like giving this incantation sort of, and then like they're reporting like phenomenon that's happening to them. It's basically it's like a TikTok trend or something like that. And she's making a lot of videos trying to present herself as someone who is being afflicted by this curse, basically. But it's clear to us that she's not really, that the curse isn't real. It's just something that people online are doing for clout. But there's other darkness below the surface in the life of her and in the life of the people she talks to online. So,
side note, but are there still world fairs? That seems to me like an artifact of like decades ago. Are there still world's fairs today?
I don't think so, but
No.
that's sort of
okay.
that's sort of the, because basically it's like a Bloody Mary thing. You stare at the camera or whatever, and there's a video you watch, and you say we're all going to the World's Fair, etc., and that's what apparently starts the darkness.
Gotcha.
There's not actually a World's
But
Fair.
Patrick, that's also something that I've questioned recently, probably actually from seeing the title of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, wait, why don't we do that
Yeah,
anymore?
when was the last World's Fair? Let's bring it back.
We need an expo where they just build some big shit that's impractical
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. What have you been up to, Steven? Besides researching the World's Fair?
Not a whole hell of a lot. I'm probably not allowed to talk about the Crooked Lake incident.
Oh my
from
God!
our
That's
camping trip
they
over the weekend.
came to my house in the black Cadillac, and they warned
Yeah.
me not to go public with what we saw and experienced.
I had to deal with the same guys. I mean, probably 10 minutes after, because we live so close to each other. We'll maybe save that for the Discord. We can set up a separate channel to discuss the classified details. But yeah, I'm still reading Poppy Z. Bright's Lost Souls for the Amon Book Club. By the time this episode comes out, we'll probably be discussing it, this weekend, before the 4th of July holiday or sometime there around. I'll provide more details. I gotta honestly pick up the slack on that one a little bit, but I'm thoroughly enjoying its depths of depravity so far. Patrick?
Not a whole lot for me other than also reading Lost Souls and also being way behind where I would like to be at this point in the upcoming Stevens Book Club discussion. But Allison with a Y and I did start a little project that our listeners may be excited to hear about. We are going to be bringing you, Amon has brought you all these, we watch every movie in a franchise episodes. We did every Halloween movie. We did every Nightmare on Elm Street movie. We did every Final Destination movie. Well, we're doing every Paranormal Activity movie. Why are just Patrick and Allison with a Y doing this, you may ask? Because Chris and Steven said, fuck no, we're not doing this again. Mm-hmm. We're not watching every Paranormal Activity movie ever. And I don't blame them, but I have a unique cognitive condition that just inclines me to do these things. I've already watched almost all these movies in the first place, but I'm rewatching them all now. So we watched the first one. We're at the beginning of the journey, and sometime, let's say before the end of 2023, because I don't really want to hold myself to any kind of a timeline on this, you're going to get an episode where we break down every movie in the Paranormal Activity franchise. So get ready for that.
You are, let's say it, you're kind of a franchise slut.
I am.
You like to really go whole hog. You've done it with, and aside from the episodes we've done on various franchises, I mean, you did all the Friday the 13th movies, which sounds punishing as hell.
It was.
You've been watching all the Twilight movies, which also sounds punishing as hell, but probably more amusing than the Friday the 13th. So,
yeah,
God bless.
It's just a form of storytelling that I find really fascinating. I think being like a fan of comic books and the extremely long form serialized storytelling in like mainstream comic books, it just fascinates me to see how these stories get told or often not told very poorly sometimes over years or decades, and the weird shifts that happen with the years. So it just fascinates me, even though sometimes it is a bit of a slug. So we'll see how these last couple Paranormal Activities are. I've only not seen, I think, the last 2 or 3.
I feel the same way about franchises, which is, I mean, one of the reasons I like Saw so much. My problem is I am always disappointed at the connective material or lack thereof between entries in a franchise. And that's one of the reasons I'm opting out of Paranormal Activity, because I haven't seen any of them, to be honest. But what I glean from what I've seen in the marketing, etc., it looks like there's really no connective tissue between these movies. It's just, here's another family that put cameras in their house, wonder what's going to happen, or, this time it's a YouTuber, or, like.
So actually I have to fact check you on that, because I agree that I dislike the lack of connective tissue sometimes in franchises, but there are also some that provide too much. And Paranormal Activity is one of those where, like, especially, I don't know, I think the second one is pretty disconnected from the rest, but as you get deeper in, they keep connecting it back to the original family and original characters in sort of increasingly underwhelming ways that are supposed to be exciting, like a big reveal, and then turn out to be not so much, at least from what I remember.
That's exciting. That's the first thing I've heard that made me at all interested in these sequels, but I'm still not going to watch them.
I didn't expect there to be any kind of overarching mythology or anything, so that does make me a little more interested. I gotta say, I'm a little bit of a franchise whore myself when it comes to just pure trash. Like I've seen all of the Leprechaun movies except for the 2 reboots, and there's a 3rd one coming. So I'm gonna have to really catch up.
Wow.
And
is that the one they're making with Conor McGregor?
I did not. What?
I feel like that's a joke.
That's another reboot. That's something else. That's a fighting movie.
Okay. No, I mean, Warwick Davis isn't going to be in it. He hasn't been in the last 2, but I'm not sure who they've got tapped to play the Lep. But I also would love, maybe this holiday season, if I can get you guys on board. I'm a big fan of the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise. And talk about a franchise where every movie tries to, like, pay homage to what happened before, but also reset it and do something completely different that makes no fucking sense. It's utterly fascinating. So I do understand the urge.
I'm 100% on board. I was really fascinated by hearing, I think it was you, describe some installment of the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise last year. So count me in when Christmas time rolls around.
All right.
All right. Well, anyway, speaking of holiday films, let's talk about End of Days, the film in
Time
which
to party like it's 1999.
yes, the film in which Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, I don't feel. Do we need to save for the spoiler room that Arnold Schwarzenegger fights the devil? I really don't
No,
think we
that's
do.
the premise of the movie.
That's just how people know this movie, I think. Yeah.
I think that was in the trailer.
Yeah. So, I mean, the basic setup is the devil returns once a millennium, I guess. And he's coming back on the eve of Y2K. You guys remember Y2K?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like looking up Y2K on Wikipedia recently because it's one of those things where it's so bizarre and surreal, especially given the general letdown, the fact that absolutely nothing happened, that it was almost like I had to check my memory to go like, did this actually happen? Is there a historical record of this?
It was Y2K was an interesting time to be alive because like the 80s and 90s were all about selling the public on how cool it was to have digital shit. You know, like if you're watching a Michael Douglas movie from the 80s or 90s, he's got a car phone, you know, like it was all about like, oh, look at all this. We got Tamagotchis. We got all this old computer stuff. And then someone was like, you know, some computer nerd was like, what if the computer gets confused when it sees the date is 00? And everyone was like, fuck. And it was like a really horrifying thing that we were going to lose all this shit that we've been building up for 20 years and all our, you know, all our jobs that were just punching computers in office buildings and stuff. It was all going to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember at the time seeing on the news that like gas pumps aren't going to work, credit cards aren't going to work, everything was just going to completely collapse.
Yeah, get your cash out of the bank. And there was, you know, I didn't really care much because I was like, you know, in 6th, 7th grade or something. But like, there was that omnipresent concern in the media that this is the big one.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, nothing happened.
No.
No.
The main like sort of way I remember that affecting me, because as you said, Chris, I mean, I was 12 at the time, and the main thing I remember was at the library that I'm sure we all went to when we were that age, like, because we grew up in the same town. There was, they had to change something in your library card account. You had to get a little Y2K sticker on your card. And I remember it still. It was this little orange sticker that showed that they had changed, I assume just like changed your record to show that, I don't know. I don't actually know what they changed, but I just remember it being a big deal to get the Y2K sticker on your card to show that your library account was good to go into the new millennium.
You got vaccinated against Y2K.
Yeah, basically.
Dude, what's crazy about this movie is like, I mean, before we've even really delved into the plot, I do want to just say, like, this feels to me, and if any of you have done research, I wonder if there's something about this online. I haven't. This feels to me like there was a script for a movie where Arnold fights the devil, and news started bubbling up about Y2K, and they were like, oh, we need to repurpose this and rush it into production as soon as possible, because this came out in November of 1999.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a movie made for a moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was premeditated. I mean, I've done zero research, but again, you know, I love to talk about Chris Carter's Millennium. That show debuted in 96, I believe, and it was, you know, at least as obsessed with Y2K and the Millennium. Not Y2K, the computer phenomenon, but Y2K, the biblical phenomenon, as this movie was. And so I think that this had been brewing for, you know, since the mid-90s of like, oh, we're coming up on this historical milestone that no one in living memory has ever seen. What are the ramifications going to be? And so I assume that they just, you know, went from there. I don't think they just had a generic movie. I mean, this could have been, what I'm trying to say is this could have been in development for 5 years and it would have probably had the same take on the Millennium.
Yeah, but like
it just fortuitously came out right before New Year's. Okay, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Well, and but the references to the computer meltdown are definitely in there, and I feel like I agree with Steven that seems like it had to have been grafted on later, because I mean, I'm sure like people in the computer world were aware of that potential problem for years before, but I feel like it couldn't have been like in the zeitgeist until like a year or two before at
But
most.
that's not really a big part of the story of the movie, is it? Like, you hear some news reports that mention it in passing, but it's all about the historical turn. Like, the computers don't play a role in the movie
Yeah,
at all,
I guess
do
so. I guess so.
There's stuff
I guess
that's-
I like conflate the computer thing with like the biblical, which I didn't even know that there was a biblical, the book of
Oh, yeah.
Y2K or whatever. I mean, what does the Bible
book
say
of
is going to
Y2K.
happen? Does the Bible actually say that Satan's coming back in 2000?
Of
or
course,
is that a creation of
everything
Oh, it
in this
does.
movie is real. It's real theology.
Is there an episode of Millennium where they figure out that if you turn the sixes upside down and you throw a 1 in front of it, it's 1999?
Dude, I'm sure there could be, dude. The Millennium was not much smarter than End of Days when it came to the end of the world shit. What I was trying to figure out was there's all this footage of Times Square celebrating the year 2000.
Oh, yeah.
Where did they get this footage? How did they do that? Did they have a fake Y2K? Did like all the studios throw down on a fake Y2K ball drop that they could use in like 6 different movies?
Well,
It
they
looks
must
like
have.
B-roll to me, but they throw
Yeah.
a timestamp on it so that you think it's happening in real time, but I think it's probably just B-roll.
Yeah,
But
I assume they
you
were just like
see-
CGing like a Y2K logo onto existing New Year's Eve footage. from
Yeah, that
Times
makes
Square.
sense, but it's seamless. It really is seamless.
Wow, unlike anything else in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Everything, all the other effects are so bad that it's shocking that this is, so spot on.
Well, anyways, at least according to the Bible, according to Arnold, the devil comes back every millennium, and he's coming back in 2000. There's a prophecy that a woman is going to bear his child. This is his bride, and this child is just marked from the start in, frankly, an incredible opening
Oh my
sequence
fucking God.
in which a
Big
baby.
James Wan energy.
Oh yeah, I was super into it. This movie is frustrating because there are a few moments that are like, holy shit, that's bonkers, and I love it. And then it's just like, where is that energy for the rest of the movie? But this
Right.
baby is stolen by a fake nurse and taken for like a satanic ritual in the basement of the hospital where somebody
Udo Kier with a rattlesnake.
Yes, Udo Kier, that's right. Who slits a rattlesnake's throat and like feeds the baby with the rattlesnake blood to like mark it as Satan's.
Chef's kiss.
That was amazing.
Fucking incredible.
That was great.
That's
yeah.
all good. That's all great stuff. But I want to correct you on one thing. Where you're talking about how the Bible according to Arnold. Well, Arnold, who we meet a few minutes later in this movie, is a non-believer, and he'll be a non-believer for most of the movie. The prophecy is presented to us in a prologue that takes place in the Vatican in the year 1979, where there's
The young pope.
a papal astrologer sees something in the sky and freaks the fuck out and is like, I've seen this constellation before somewhere. Oh shit!
I gotta open up my scrolls and titanium tubes.
He's ready for Y2K. He's got nothing on digital. It's 1979, but he goes to his scrolls, and then I'm like, all right, this is pretty par for the course so far. What I wasn't prepared for is how he rushes into the Pope's chambers and we see the actual Pope. Not the actual Pope, of course, but an actor playing the Pope. Usually, because how many exorcism
Thank
movies...
you for clarifying that.
He's the Pope's astrologer.
How many exorcism movies have we seen? And it's always like, a priest, a cardinal, a bishop, like, maybe the Pope's mentioned, but like to actually depict a Pope and have the Pope be like, you must protect this girl at all costs. Like, that's just kind of an extra level of absurdity. And I knew that when I saw that, I was like, all right, this is a movie that's going to be timid about the subject matter, and it sure isn't. And that's kind of one of the things I like the most about the movie, because again, we've seen so many of these exorcism movies and they always just seem to be a little too solemn about the religious aspects, take the religious aspects a little too seriously. They have a lot of respect reserved for Catholicism and the priesthood and all this stuff, more or less. And this is the movie where like, no, like the point is Arnold is fighting the devil. And if you're getting his way, whether you're a priest or not a priest, you're going to get like pushed or punched or shot.
Well, dude, the Ebert mentions something like this in his review. Like, why does the Catholic Church go after a sweet little movie like Dogma and they just ignored End of Days? Like, if I were a Catholic, I'd be so fucking offended and infuriated by this movie.
Okay, but I will still say this is essentially a faith-based film. And I was shocked, honestly, by especially the way the climax plays out, which we're going to get to eventually. But this movie is pretty big on at least the idea of God, if not the Catholic Church itself, because a lot of Catholic priests and various officials certainly do bite it in rather gory fashion throughout this. But it's very faithful to the idea of like a Judeo-Christian God, at least.
Ooh,
Yeah.
To some extent, but it doesn't strike. It seems like it's far too irreverent to actually be like a faith-based film that's actually trying to get a faith-based message across. It's a movie that's not afraid to use the Christian and Catholic faiths as hooks to hang plot stuff onto, but like it's like any other movie. Like Jesus is indistinguishable from like, I don't know what in another movie could be a big witch or something, if that makes any sense.
Sort of, yeah.
I don't know. We'll get more into that, obviously, as things go along, because that is integral to the climax of the film.
There's a mythology. There's a mythology to this movie that happens to coincide in places with Christian mythology, but it's all devices in the universe of this movie, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, so we've got, after this prologue in the 80s, we flash forward to 1999 when the baby that we saw in the prologue is now a young adult woman, and soon to cross paths with, of course, our hero, Arnold Schwarzenegger, whose name in this movie is what, Jericho Kane or Jericho Crane or
Jericho
something?
Kane.
Jericho Kane.
What a name. Introduced.
And if you say it like Michael Caine, it sounds even funnier. But
I'm not going to attempt that right now, but maybe once we turn the recorder off. And we're introduced to Arnold with, I mean, frankly, a series of 3 rather shocking events. We see him first loading a gun, putting it to his head. Like literally, this moment 1 is he's about to commit suicide and is interrupted only by his coworker knocking on his door.
Kevin Pollak.
Yeah, his character's name is what, Bobby Chicago or Billy Chicago or something.
Bobby
This is he's like the poor man's Dennis Miller in this, and it's like one of those 90s movies where like the hero it has a comedian sidekick whose job is to go around and just make a one-liner about everything. They go to like the killer's dilapidated, nest of an apartment, and he's like, "This must be rent controlled."
Yeah.
And that's him the whole movie.
Yeah.
I loved it, for the record.
But yeah, Bobby Chicago comes into Arnold's apartment. Arnold prepares a disgusting breakfast shake for himself that includes what? Coffee, beer, Pepto, pizza
that he finds on the floor, and Chinese leftovers.
Yeah. And also several ingredients that, frankly, I think are just kind of off camera. Like, you see him throwing shit in there, but it's not clear what it is. It's just clear that this man doesn't give a shit and is ready for his life to be over.
And is going to have a ridiculous shit soon afterward, I would imagine.
I've been starting my mornings with this shake since I got the recipe in Arnold's daily newsletter, and I feel great.
How is it?
I feel great. I've never felt better, actually.
Huh.
So,
you've been looking good. You have that glow about you. That explains some things.
Yeah, don't knock it before you try it.
Okay,
we should get them as a sponsor. We should get that shake to sponsor us, like Athletic
It's
Greens.
homemade. It's not. Did you hear what I said? It's not prepackaged. I make it with a recipe from Arnold's.
Where do you get the recipe from?
Arnold's daily. Arnold actually has a daily newsletter. I'm not making this up. Arnold's.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger's got this whole. He's got this thing now called the Pump Club. He sends a daily email to you. It takes about 3 to 5 minutes to read. It's got an inspirational tip. It's got a health tip. And I read it every day.
What were his tips today? What were his tips today? I'm genuinely curious.
Okay. Well, I think I actually deleted.
He's actually signed up for it. I thought you were just
No, I'm not doing
no,
a bit.
I know he's
I'm not doing a
serious.
bit.
I know he's serious.
All right, today the topic is 4 ways to win the morning. And
okay, I could use that.
the topics are
So surely the shake is one of them.
winning every morning. We're talking about how to get a good night's sleep and how your energy will ebb and flow throughout the day depending on the kind of sleep you get and what you eat when you wake up. We're talking about cavity control with brushing and flossing and black and green tea, which studies suggest can help fight against dental decay. Talking about this is relevant. One drink can disrupt a good night of rest. He's myth busting the nightcap here.
It's absolutely true, though. Mm-hmm. Okay, good to know that Arnold's up on the science.
And yeah, those are the topics today.
Do you think Arnold writes this himself, or does he have like a PA or something?
Very transparent about that. Some of the stuff is written himself. Everything in today's newsletter, I think, is written by his editors-in-chief, Adam and Daniel. And it's pretty clear when he's doing the writing versus them. So
I'm frankly stunned that he writes any of it. So
no,
good for him, I guess.
He does a lot of stuff. So this might be a good time to mention my sort of relationship with Arnold Schwarzenegger because
wait, can I say the third third insane thing that Arnold does to introduce himself in this film? He's basically he works for a security company. He's a retired cop. And he now works for a security company, and he's escorting a financier of some sort at the beginning of this film. And the banker is shot at by a sniper from a rooftop, and Arnold, of course, gives chase, even though I think at this point the guy he was supposed to protect, which should be the full extent of his job should not be to chase down this sniper. Let's put it this way.
Right,
but
that's
does,
ridiculous.
Of course. And he winds up hanging from a fucking helicopter by a giant cable as the helicopter like flies him across a roof to chase a guy that he could be much more easily running along the roof to chase the guy. It's a real stunt, clearly, and it looks great, but it's also fucking ridiculous. And that was another one of the handful of like gonzo moments in this movie where I was like, oh, is this actually going to be awesome?
Yeah, this movie starts off with a cascade of scenes that are so delirious and ridiculous that you're like, there's no way this movie can keep this up. This is just the first 15 minutes that they show distributors before it turns into some like talky snooze fest.
Yeah.
Oh no, they keep it up.
And it's weird.
Oh, you think they do?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, if you think that, you'd be right. You think they do? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's also, so this is Peter Hyams, who did Time Cop, The Relic, A Sound of Thunder. I didn't know he did that one. It's weirdly like badly directed and edited and staged. Like as like fun as that opening action sequence was, it felt like it was all second unit shit. Like this movie has like a very like dated, clunky feel to it, even in its most operatic moments. And I found that just utterly fascinating for a movie that cost $100 million to make in 1999, that it looked so fucking shitty.
I disagree. I mean, maybe dated,
Really?
but dated in a good way, because you would never see an action scene like that today anywhere.
Well, sure.
I mean, short of maybe
unless
a Mission
Tom Cruise
Impossible.
directed it.
Tom Cruise might do
acted
it.
in it.
But like, you know, how many action scenes like that have we seen in you know, Marvel movies or whatever, set in New York, where they clearly did not shut down 5 blocks in New York and bring in a real helicopter and dangle someone off of it, you know?
Yeah, I thought that scene looked pretty awesome, but definitely different from the rest of the film. You know, partially, and I think the way Steven described, where it may have been a lot of second unit work, but also just in the sense that, to me, again, there just aren't many moments in the movie that sing like that. And that was a banger, though. That sequence was a banger. Peter Hyams was supposed to be James Cameron. Did you all see that?
Yeah.
I saw that James Cameron recommended him. I didn't see.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think Cameron was going to direct it, but he did. Yeah, submit Hyams' name.
Yeah.
There is a real thrill though in like seeing that this is like a practical stunt. I don't think it's Arnold on the thing the whole time. There's definitely a stunt double, but like there is a thrill in that reminded me of Larry Cohen movies from the 70s, like Cue the Winged Serpent, where he's just like doing shit in New York City with like, you know, like staging like active active shooter sniper scenarios with like no permits, and the people on the streets don't know what the fuck is going on. So you're getting like real reactions from them. It really felt like a callback to like late 70s New York filmmaking, and even kind of looked like it in the way that it was a little rough around the edges, I guess, as they're trying to capture this without getting in trouble.
Yeah, I'll never forget like just the big wide shot of the helicopter cruising along the roof, dude dangling from it. It's not like necessarily a great shot, but it shows you what you need to see and shows you that they're doing this for real, and that is imprinted on my brain.
I know exactly the shot you're talking about, and it's like, wow, this looks a little rough, but also like the stakes are real, because that's a real human being. He could die. He could slip and fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 20 stories.
Yeah. But Chris, tell us about your conflicted relationship with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I've had a lot of admiration for Arnold Schwarzenegger as a movie star. I always say like, there's just never gonna be another Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm privileged to have been aware, unlike say Michael Jordan or somebody who like I never really followed as a kid. Like, he's someone who I've been aware of his career in a pretty notable way my entire life. And it's, you know, I mean, we barely even have movie stars anymore, much less stars of that caliber, much less such unique personalities as Arnold. And so I have a very soft spot in my heart for him because of that. And then, like I said, I saw someone describe his recent work that he's a emeritus version of himself now, where he spends his time making YouTube videos about why it's bad to be a Nazi, and like trying to inspire people, and like advocating against climate change, and running the Arnold Classic, and, you know, legitimately doing a lot of stuff to help people and help the state of the world. Where I'm conflicted, though, is because there's always been some aspects of him that haven't sat right with me. And I took this opportunity to research him a little bit more. And I looked into his tenure as governor of California and did not like what I found. He's basically been a never Trump Republican who has stood in the way of a lot of progress on a lot of fronts. So much so that if he were anybody else, I would just say this guy's an asshole. And his big public shame is the child he fathered with his maid, which is always discussed through the lens of a cheating scandal, when the power dynamic and employment dynamic involved there kind of makes it a little more complicated for me than just a cheating scandal. And so while I was looking into that, I found out like basically all these sexual harassment and assault allegations that were made against him during his time as governor, you know, where he's just kind of had a real boorish attitude about women and groping people on sets and stuff. And, you know, it's just another case of like, how do you hold these ideas in your head about entertainers who, you know, have done terrible things on several fronts? And like, I'm not, if he were anybody else, I would say this guy's an asshole. And there's something that keeps me from totally washing my hands of him. But I mean, I'm not going to lie. I started reading his newsletters a little differently after I looked into him. So,
well, you're bearing the lead, Chris, because the real scandal here is that in the during the filming of this movie, famed actress Miriam Margolyes, is that how her name is pronounced?
I have no idea. Until yesterday, I thought it was Margoyles, so I'm not the guy to ask.
Wikipedia tells me Margolyes. She plays the stepmother of our heroine, the Devil's Bride, to be in this film. And apparently, during a scene where Arnold had to pin her down on the ground, he repeatedly farted in her face.
And by her own words, she at one point got very cross and said, "Fuck you, Arnie."
And can you imagine that dude's drinking a fucking beer, Chinese food, pizza, Pepto-Bismol shake every morning? Can you imagine how rancid those farts were?
Oh my god!
This is real though. Look it up, folks. Look it up.
Yeah, and I mean, like, to be real, it sounds like even beyond the governorship, it looks like there are a lot of groping and sexual misconduct allegations, and including, I think she said that he was doing some of that shit on the set for this.
She said he was pretty handsy with the other females on
Yeah.
the set. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Arnold, fun, very, very fun to watch in movies, but apparently, as we've all learned over the last couple of days, not a great human being.
Not fun to be around if you're a woman, especially.
Yeah, seriously.
And I mean, I think he's done a fairly respectable job of facing the music on his so-called cheating scandal and sort of acknowledging that. And I think that he's someone who probably has changed, hopefully, and would be capable of, making an apology and saying, look, I did all this stuff. Here's why that's wrong. Just like he talks about how his dad was a Nazi and why that was wrong.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But it's a problem for me that he hasn't done that.
Well, it's especially problematic to me that he's been completely silent and has offered no public comment on the fart fiasco. I think he really needs to correct that as soon as possible.
Step up, Arnold.
Let's confront him. Let's confront him at the Arnold Classic. And make him answer this.
Is that like a weightlifting competition? What is the Arnold Classic?
Oh no, it's like a big fitness convention where there's like a big weightlifting competition, but they have little whatever your physical thing is, arm wrestling, everything. They have little.
Does Stallone show up and do his over the top thing?
I don't think so.
Oh well, okay, count me out.
He posts from Instagram. He posts on Instagram while he's there, and always starts by saying, "I'm here at the Arnold Classic." And me and Chris used to say that all the time.
I forgot about that. That was a good bit. I'll have to bring that back.
But through this job gone wrong, he gets, frankly, so much more wrapped up in this case than anyone in his position actually should. He's tracking down clues. He's outrunning his old co-workers from the force, figuring out who shot this banker, why, etc. And of course, it all winds up being tied into this conspiracy around the girl, the bride-to-be of Satan, who is being pursued by, no less than 3 groups. Like, there's the good Catholics, the bad Catholics, and the Satanists.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because the Catholic Church itself is divided over whether or not to just trust in God or to stop this from happening.
Yeah,
and then there's outside groups and conspiracy theorists that intervene as well.
I don't know if we were explicit about the stakes here, because basically the devil arrives on Earth upon the coming of the millennium, which is a scene we should talk about, because that's another part where I was like, holy shit, what kind of movie is this?
When the invisible Satan crawled out of the sewer.
That's when it makes a lot of sense that this was written by the same guy who wrote Hollow Man.
Oh,
was it?
Like that? Yeah.
Oh, shit.
All right, this guy's got a one-track mind. I mean,
I feel like we should explain that right now.
Let's just talk about that. The first thing we see in modern day New York are some guys working in a sewer. Good old blue collar New Yorkers. You mess with one of them, you mess with all of them, and they're like, "Holy shit, the pressure's too high down in this manhole. What's going on?" Many blocks of New York, the sewers inexplicably blow up as if there's a gas main explosion, which is never explained. I take it to mean that it's sort of like hell opening up, a little bit, like a little crack. And a big blurry CGI winged demon comes out.
A big Malbolgia. Yeah. An invisible Malbolgia.
We get to see visible Malbolgia later, but we'll get to that too.
And such that it didn't read to me as the devil, because the devil should not look that shitty, but it is the devil himself. I thought it was just a messenger demon. Anyway, demon floats around, goes into an upscale restaurant, and decides Gabriel
Byrne is its man.
Yeah, finds Gabriel Byrne, who
which
as
I
Patrick
get it,
explained, Gabriel Byrne is the guy that Arnold Schwarzenegger has to protect, who gets shot upon in the opening scene, or not the opening scene, but a scene that will come very soon. But here's just a normal guy. We don't know who he is. He goes to the bathroom. This invisible thing, assaults him like Hollow Man in the bathroom and possesses him. Gabriel Byrne comes out, returns to his table where there's some beautiful woman sitting. Without saying a word, he gropes this woman, like another man we could mention.
Yeah.
Puts a heavy kiss on her, exposes her breast in front of us and the whole audience. Her dining companion, where it's unclear what the relationship between these three people are, is like aghast, but he looks in Gabriel Byrne's eyes and he has no power to say anything. He just has to watch it happen.
He just comes instantly, I think.
Oh, yeah, everybody's super turned on, frankly.
Oh, yeah, everyone's super turned on.
Shocked but aroused.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
the Prince of Darkness, man.
Gabriel Byrne walks out of this restaurant, and I'm like, great scene. Leave it there.
Walks away like Denzel.
Nope. The whole restaurant inexplicably explodes in a massive fireball behind him.
I screamed out loud. I loved it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a good microcosm of this film because there's so many like parts of this thing where it's like, yeah, that's a scene, but then they just take it to some level that you did not expect. And you're like, okay, that's cool.
I would argue that this movie, in instances like that, and there are several throughout it, I think this movie knows what it is, and I think it's maybe even trying to be kind of funny at times and over the top. Because there are scenes later where like we see what leads to the explosion of certain things. There's a particular scene involving the devil taking a piss that you guys might recall.
Oh.
But like this was so fucking... It was like something out of The Simpsons. Where like, oh, of course the building has to blow up. We don't even need to see him planting a bomb or anything. We don't need to know that he can do this with his mind, which I don't think he can. It just happens. And it's... I enjoyed it. It felt like a little wink. Like, we know this movie's really fucking stupid. We're just here to entertain you.
It may know what it's doing in certain scenes, as you said, but I think that's part of my problem, and I hate to go back to the like tonally inconsistent but to me it just felt like there were so many like little dashes and pinches of this and that thrown into this movie that it didn't feel like anything in particular. Like there's a little bit of exorcism, there's a little bit conspiracy thriller, there's a little bit just like gumshoe detective, like tracking down the mystery stuff. There is some horror thrown in. There's some Arnold, but there's not generally the like scope or stupidity of action that you would expect from an Arnold movie. There's some winky stuff. There's some extremely maudlin serious stuff. And then, as I said already, there's this like weird, like it all gets tied up with, well, believe in God, pledge your allegiance to God, and you're good. You know, it's just this very, very weird amalgam of a lot of things, and it's no one or even just two things in particular. And that kind of wore my patience then.
It's a fucking mess, but it's like I do feel like there's someone involved at a high level in the production of this that's like, look, this is a rush job, but like we're gonna try and make it as fun as possible and just throw in some totally ridiculous shit here and there to keep you engaged.
Yeah, it's uneven. It's uneven for sure, but I don't think it ever loses sight of the premise that this is about Arnold Schwarzenegger fighting the devil, and it's aware of how silly that premise is for the most part, and it plays it more or less straight at various parts. But
I also wanted more of Arnold fighting the devil. Like, I mean, he doesn't actually fight the devil all that much. It's the final. It only really happens in the final battle, which is frankly not that long. And I was like, if you're giving me Arnold fighting the devil, make it bigger and stupider than this.
No. I disagree.
I agree with you
because I disagree with both of you then, because it goes down the checklist. You're like, what do you want in a movie about Arnold fighting the devil in the year 1999? Sure, he fights the devil, and we have 2 or 3 scenes where he's really fighting the devil. But how much more of that do we really need? Instead, they give us Arnold fighting priests, Arnold fighting Satanists, the devil seducing Arnold, Arnold seducing the devil, like on and on and on. And, snake baby sacrifice. Scenes where priests have a woman chained up speaking in tongues in the basement of a church, and they're all like trying to decode what she says using IBM computers, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is also there, like, what is happening here?
So I mean, you're making it sound really interesting, but the movie I watched was not that interesting. And I'm curious to hear like sort of what both of your experiences were with, I guess, sort of your energy or interest level, because I was like, as I said, super into the opening, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of this. I was like, oh, this seems fucking sick. And the ending was pretty solid. And in between, it was just kind of this like, to me, felt very dull. There was oddly little action. You know, you talked about Arnold fighting people. There's not a lot of Arnold fighting people other than like beginning and end. And I was just super like, not checked out, I guess, because I was like paying attention, but I was following it. But it was very kind of dull and lifeless to me for most of the middle stretch.
There's enough there for me, even when the action's not happening, to keep my attention and make me laugh. Scenes where, like, you know, the assassin, who we find out is a priest, and is also named Thomas Aquinas.
I know! Oh my god. I had to, like, rewind for a second. I'm like, wait, is that actually the character's name, or was that a joke? Nope, that's his name.
He leaves a clue, and the cops the cops look at it, and they're like, Christ in New York. Is that a clue? And Arnold is like,
Christine York.
What if it is a name? Christine York. And of course he's right. Like, just stuff like that.
That made me laugh so hard. It's so, there's so much like loony, stupid shit in this that like I loved it. I mean, I enjoyed every second of this movie. It was just so like every 5 minutes something totally loopy and stupid and like almost seemingly self-aware happened that I was like mostly wrapped with fascination that this was such an expensive movie, a movie I remember being promoted, though I didn't see it when it came out, and I just couldn't believe that like something this, it really felt like a Larry Cohen movie in a lot of ways. It felt like a scrappy, low budget movie, except the filmmaker was given $100 million to make it.
Yeah.
And they
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
and the studio gave them no notes about the script. They're like, yeah, this is all fine. Like, it didn't have any sort of like refinement to it or anything. It was just like, let's throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. That's my kind of bad movie. I don't know.
They're doing it the drive-in way when they make this movie.
And the drive-in never dies.
Well, shit, I don't know. Shit, I feel like we've come this close to reviewing it. I don't know.
I want to review it.
Can I talk about, if we're talking about loony moments, I want to bring us all back to one loony moment where Satan, Gabriel Byrne, who I find it funny that like Satan keeps wanting to return to this body even after like Arnold throws him off a fucking building at one point, and theoretically this body he's possessed should be absolutely broken, but Satan's like, no, I still want to look like Gabriel Byrne.
He has some capacity to heal the body supernaturally with his powers, and we're shown that very early on, and so it's like almost a running joke for me that like Arnold just keeps pulling out different guns and shooting this guy, and he just keeps healing. And it's like, I knew from the second scene that you can't shoot this guy,
but there's no logic to it because
it's all Arnold knows how to do. You just see him like get a bigger gun. Even in the climax of the movie, there's like that, and I mean, eventually it sort of works, but like he goes to the locker, like the commando locker, and does the commando thing where he puts on all the guns, and I'm like, you've already shot this guy so many times.
Yeah, but there's like, I don't want to derail Patrick further, but there is this weird, insane like lack of or lapse in logic in this movie where like, okay, he shoots him a couple times, devil heals. But it seems like the devil, like, it's never explained, but it seems like his healing powers may be increased throughout the film. But Arnold, his only tactic is to use guns. That's it. There's nothing. I started laughing. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the rest of the movie. He's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger guns. And the devil is going to have varying degrees of like pain and distress from dealing with it, and he'll be kept at bay for maybe a little bit longer if it's a fully automatic, you know, machine gun as opposed to a grenade launcher or whatever. But like that, this is your movie. We're not pulling out crucifixes.
I love it, and especially because it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like, what else do you expect him to do? Like it totally fits. It's like a metatextual thing where it's like, because this is Arnold Schwarzenegger, I know he's going to choose the gun every time. And there's even a scene where they're like, the old priest is like, but you have to open your heart and let Jesus in and accept faith. And Arnold says, Between faith and Glock 9mm, I trust Glock 9mm.
Well, I'm getting to the loony moment still, but I think I was just underwhelmed. I think by Gabriel Byrne. I wanted either the giant CGI demon version of Satan that we do actually get finally in the final battle. Or else I wanted, like, I don't know, sort of a more interesting or charismatic Satan. This was just, I don't know, Gabriel Byrne was kind of on autopilot, and I don't know, I wanted something more out of Arnold versus, I wanted more out of Satan, I guess. I actually also wanted more out of Arnold. Arnold seemed like he was on autopilot in this, too. But
everybody's on autopilot.
Well, I liked him, but get to your loony moment.
Yeah, so the loony moment is Satan's tracking down the girl, and he goes to Udo Kier, who has been her psychiatrist, I believe, and has been, Udo Kier is a Satanist, and he's been like doing his best to kind of manipulate this situation and set it all up for Satan. So Satan barges in on Udo Kier's dinner with his wife and daughter, and Satan's like, "Is that your daughter? Is that your wife?" And Udo Kier's like, "Yes." And he just
jump cut.
He stares at them creepily, and then smash cut to like them on a like red satin silky bed having a threesome. Satan, the wife, and the daughter.
Oh my God, I forgot about this.
The daughter's breasts are fully out. She's just kind of touching herself while Satan is like having sex with the mom, and then their legs start to like CGI like meld together, and they start to become like one creature, I guess. And then smash cut to Christine, bride to be of the devil, having another one of her recurring nightmares about Satan having sex with her. And it was just so gratuitous for literally no reason, because Christine does not appear in this scene, if I remember. Maybe there's a quick hallucinatory where like the wife turns into Christine or something. No, but it just felt entirely extraneous, like just there for shock value. I think this is rated R for, among other things, a strong sex scene. Yeah. And that's the strong sex scene.
Right, where their bodies are literally like morphing into each other with terrible CGI. Like, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look interesting. And yeah, again, it serves no purpose because it's just a vision. It's not even something that actually happened.
Oh, I think it actually happened. I just think that's the weird way they transition out of it, with Christine having a nightmare, which is probably she's getting a vision of that sex scene, but she could be having a vision of anything else, that she has recurring nightmares. So,
well, and Udo Kier never appears again, I think, right?
No, he probably... Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows what happened to him?
Who knows? But I think a lot of this was inspired to some extent by The Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought of The Devil's Advocate so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Gabriel Byrne's kind of doing the same sort of thing, although he's not Al Pacino, so he's actually like acting it a little more delicately than Al Pacino.
Yeah, it's the same era. It's the same like big deal stars of the moment doing a kind of silly story about Satan. Just The Devil's Advocate entertained me so much more and was more kind of consistently loony than this was. I guess is my review. Are we reviewing it now? I think that's what we were heading towards.
Steven's got to tell us something.
Oh, tell us something.
This is just a wild ass theory, but I started to think throughout the course of the film. I mean, this is set in New York, 1999. I think Gabriel Byrne, and I meant to look up interviews with him last night, and I didn't get around to it. I think he might have been pretty inspired by Trump in his performance. There were some line readings where I was like, and just like kind of like the way that his character behaves once he's inhabited by the devil, where I'm like, I would not doubt, because is he British? Where's
Gabriel Byrne?
I think so.
Yeah.
He's not
Irish,
American.
I think.
Irish, okay. Yeah. Irish. Yeah, so he's definitely like, he's got to figure out an American accent, which means he's probably, going to base it on a few different, people, characters, or real life people. And I got some pretty big, like, late 90s Trump vibes from him throughout this. And I have to wonder if that wasn't an inspiration. Would have preferred if he went the full on, like, Psycho Pacino route instead.
Yeah.
But it intrigued me, and I'll report back. I'll see if I can dig anything up and try to verify whether or not there's some truth to this.
He is Irish, and you know what? Now that he's getting older, he looks kind of like Bill Nye. Not like the science guy, but I don't know actually what country he's from. British. I'm going to say British.
He's British, yeah.
Yeah, British actor. Bill Nighy.
Well, he also, and especially young Gabriel Byrne, I'm like, man, if they ever make a Roxy Music biopic, he needs to play Brian Ferry.
Oh, yes.
I really liked his performance in this. I liked that it wasn't super over the top like Al Pacino. I thought he was very charming as the devil. I almost rooted for the devil in a couple scenes because there's some good scenes where he tempts Arnold, tempts other people, and you're like, this guy seems like he's making some good points. Would it really be that bad to be in line with the devil? We don't really know what the end of days is going to bring about. It's probably not good, but hey.
Well, fuck it. I'll review it so we can get spoiler room and spoil everything. I love this movie. As a bad movie, it is like top tier. Yeah, it is a little long, but I found that like there was a point where I started to get a little exhausted, and then it just really went full bananas. And it's such an interesting like time capsule of a very specific moment in world history where we really thought we didn't program computers to be smart enough to understand double zeros as a year. And I'm not a fan of movies that involve like horror movies that involve religion because I'm not religious. I don't see it as a real threat. It doesn't really matter to enjoy this movie though, because it just keeps throwing loony shit at you every few minutes. It's hilarious. It's entertaining. I don't know. I mean, I can't even say any more about it. Well, if you've not seen End of Days, get some friends, get some weed, get some beer, go to the Phantom Zone, eat some pizza, and you're probably going to enjoy it. It's a great time at the movies.
You do have to give it a rating though.
It's a hardcore view it.
Damn, wow.
I don't think, when's the last time I gave a movie a view it? Like Raw, probably? I think it's been like a year.
Yeah, it's been a while.
End of Days is an absolute view it for me. Patrick?
Oof. I don't know. It had its, again, I've said already, it had a handful of moments that I enjoyed. They were not enough for me to recommend the movie. Go watch the helicopter rooftop chase scene on YouTube. That's a hardcore view it. But otherwise, this is for me a screw it. It was pretty flat.
Oh, damn.
Chris.
I have to give it a view it too. I love this movie.
Yes! Hail Satan!
I love this movie. It was, I thought, just a delight. It was absurd in all the right ways. It was fun. It was irreverent. I didn't know how badly I wanted a movie about the devil and demons that didn't have the like reverence for the Catholic institution that we see in a lot of these other movies that we watched, like the Vatican tapes.
Yeah.
And
I thought of that quite a bit too.
And it was just a ton of fun. Lots of crazy stuff. Great performances. Arnold doing fun stuff. Only dragged in a couple parts for me. It was so crazy and delightful in the beginning. It was like when I watched Elvis. And just like when I watched Elvis, I was like, is this what the whole movie's going to be like? And it was. So
for me, it's like it would be hard to recommend, but like what Patrick was saying, there was like a one scene or two scenes that really grabbed you. For me, there's like 10 scenes that grabbed me, and they're spaced out just enough that went into my rating. It's like you can't really just watch a supercut. You really have to see the whole movie to see how crazy the shit feels when it's dropped in amidst everything else that's going on.
I would say there's between 5 and 10 scenes that really grabbed me, but then every scene has at least one little bit to it that made me chuckle or interested me. So, yeah.
Wow.
View it.
What a time, what a time. Well, we are going to go into the spoiler Times Square, I guess, to spoil everything about what happens at the end of Days. But before that, we will encourage you, as always, to follow us on your social media platforms of choice, as long as those include Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, because we're not on any of the other ones, but we are on those ones at Amoncast, EHMON cast. follow us and leave us a review on your podcast provider of choice. Those reviews especially are fantastic for us because we love to see the feedback, and it helps more people find the show, kind of pushes it up in the algorithm more. Also visit our broken website, every horror movie on netflix.com. No, are we just taking that out of the message?
It's our website is not Y2K proof. Don't go to the website unless you want to find out what we were doing 2 years ago.
It has not gotten its little Y2K sticker. So never mind. I take that back. Don't go to the website. Don't go to the website. Your computer might flip back and start thinking that it's 1923 instead of 2023 if you go to the website. And finally, check the show notes for a link to our Discord. If you don't know what Discord is, it's a chat type program along the lines of AIM. If you were into AOL Instant Messenger back in the day, you can hop on there and talk about horror, AIM on movies, non-AIM on movies.
It's not like AIM
at all.
It's not like AIM.
Okay, what's it like?
It's
What is it
like...
like?
It's like...
It's a chat room.
I guess, but it does... Yeah, I don't know. It's like a group chat. It's like a group chat.
I was just trying to keep the Y2K theme going and take everybody back to the year 2000.
It's like
AIM.
Yahoo groups or Yahoo
It's
chat
like GeoCities.
It's like GeoCities.
No, but you can talk to Amon listeners the world over about horror movies, horror books. You can read along in Steven's book club. If you're a fast reader, you could maybe even jump in and read Lost Souls with us, which has been a delight. But check the show notes for that if you just can't get enough of talking about horror with other people who love this show. All right, do you guys have your party hats on? Are you ready to go to Times Square?
I'm ready to go. I want to drop in like a little noisemaker sound.
Okay.
Right now, but I'm not editing, so.
Yeah, thanks. I'll take that up. All right, see you in the year 2000, motherfuckers.
I'm just glad it wasn't End of J's.
Leave that in and throw in the sound effect.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No question. Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year!
Oh my God, the clock still works. Holy shit. I'll be damned.
Zoom's still working. Fuck.
You know, we're going to have to do all this again with the Y2K thing in 2069, I think, because that's like the Linux epoch that the actual clock that a lot of computers and web pages run on. It starts on like January 1st, 1970 or something.
Oh.
Why did they have so little foresight to think that humanity wouldn't last that long? Well,
I think
spoilers.
I think we're all right though, because I type 69 into my browser every night and nothing's broken yet. So.
Anyways, we're here in Spoiler Times Square, here to spoil everything.
We're in the confessional.
End of days.
We're going to start spreading the news about what happened in this movie.
Jesus.
Oh, man. I don't even know if we explained the premise of this movie that clearly. But, I mean, the main situation here.
Arnold's wife and kid are dead.
Oh, they're dead. They died. They died badly. And this 20-year-old
like
woman,
dogs.
this 20-year-old woman named Christine York, basically because of a prophecy, because of the stars she was born under, when the devil walks the earth in the year 1999. By the way, we learned that the mark of the beast is not 666, it's 999,
just
upside
like
down.
in 1999.
So 1999 is the year where he's at his most powerful.
Which I love that a priest literally writes 666 on a piece of paper and turns it upside down to demonstrate this to Arnold, as if we couldn't visualize this, and as if Arnold Schwarzenegger couldn't visualize
I
it.
love it. I love it. Anyway, when the devil walks the earth in 1999, at the end of the year, he's got like 3 days to do it. He's going to find this woman and make love to her. And I think it's implied that that child then will be the Antichrist or something. And such will begin the end of days. And as Gabriel Byrne calls it, the world will be under new management. And he doesn't really
That made me think of
what
Trump
that involves.
too. The way he delivered that line is when I wrote down, "Ooh, I think he's doing a little Trump here." Interesting.
Yeah.
He's going to make the world great again.
Well, so I mean, there's a great scene. For my money, it's a great scene when Gabriel Byrne confronts Arnold in Arnold's apartment and basically makes the pitch. He's like, "Listen, I've seen how angry and upset you are. You have hate in your heart. You and I were a lot alike. Your family was killed by criminals while you were out working. It's all you can think about. I can bring... What kind of God would allow that to happen? I can bring them all back, and you can reign with me. All you got to do is give me Christine York's location." And it's
Got to dox Christine York. And
it's
then
a pretty compelling pitch.
doesn't he ask him like what he wants? And Arnold says, "I want you to go to hell."
Yes.
I mean, that's the pitch from every, like, either, like, Satan or Satanist figure in... Well, not every, but like that's not an uncommon pitch. And it's always an inarguable pitch. It's like, yeah, God sucks. Like, why am I not just fully on board with the villain in this moment, other than in this film that he's sexually assaulting fucking everybody?
Yeah, and in this film, Arnold doesn't really have a reason to say no, except, I guess, duty. Or, I mean, me as an audience member, I know that, like, listen, you just can't make... I don't think you can make a deal with the devil. He's pretty charming, but if you make a deal with the devil, it's probably not going to go well for you.
Yeah.
He'll cheat you. He doesn't play fair.
Yeah.
Was this not a complete carbon copy ripoff of the scene where the Joker shows up at Bruce Wayne's apartment in Batman? Did you guys think about that at all? Because I did.
I didn't think about that. But yeah,
I mean,
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? Go to hell.
I mean, and I say this as someone who just saw Michael Keaton say this line again and hated seeing him say this line again in its new context. But I would sell my fucking house to hear Arnold say, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts."
You want to go nuts? Come over to my place and see a pizza roll.
Oh, boy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, what even is the, like, spoilers? Like,
There are none.
there are none. Like, there's they go to a church where Christine's supposed to be safe, and both the bad Catholics and Satan show up to come for her. Priests get stabbed in the head with crucifixes.
Yeah.
They escape into the subway. Or wait, is the subway before or after that? I forget. There's a big subway chase.
Well, because there's a big scene after that happens.
There's two big church
the devil
action
takes
sequences
Christine.
at the end.
The devil takes Christine out of the church because he plows through all the priests and takes her to a second location, which is like the underground Satanist rave.
Oh, right.
It's an interesting scene because Arnold comes into this and I start hearing music that sounds like Guns N' Roses.
Yep.
I'm pretty keen on Guns N' Roses. And I'm like, this sounds like Guns N' Roses, but this is not a song I've ever fucking heard before. Turns out this is a song that Guns N' Roses recorded for their much delayed album Chinese Democracy.
Oh, what?
The album that
Tommy Stinson plays on it.
The album that was in the album that was in production for like 15 years.
Yeah, I don't think so, Steven. I think Tommy Stinson played on the final album, but wouldn't have played on this version of it.
I thought he was like locked into the band for like a decade or something.
Oh.
And keep coming back. I'll do some more research,
Yeah.
but that'd be pretty fucking cool.
I don't know. But anyway, apparently this is a song that was recorded for Chinese Democracy, dropped in this movie like 10 or 11 years before Chinese Democracy came out. And by the time the album came out, this song had been cut off the album.
Yeah, because it came out, like 15, 20 years later, right? Well, not 20.
Yeah. No,
but...
it came out like 2009, I want to say.
Oh, okay. So still like almost a decade later.
2008, November 2008.
Okay.
But yeah. But yeah, it's the song of choice in the Satanist rave where basically every Spencer Gifts Hot Topic Satanist in New York has assembled to watch the devil have sex with this lady, apparently.
Why wouldn't you? I mean, I'd want to be front row.
Yeah, and there is sort of a plot device / maybe theme in this movie where like New York City is just teeming with Satanists. Like, everybody is a Satanist. If you throw a stone, you're hitting a Satanist in New York.
It's like the fucking Crow. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's a great scene where like it's like the scene where they all start throwing cans at the Green Goblin, but it's like every New Yorker lines up to beat the shit out of Arnold Schwarzenegger just because they're all Satanists, and then they crucify him in an alley.
Oh yeah.
And he has to stay up there like overnight, and then they cut him down, and it's sort of like a little Jesus arc because he's up
sort
there,
of.
There's a few Jesus arcs in this movie. Like
It's a faith-based film.
They take him down, they bring him back to life.
It's a Kirk Cameron production.
It is. I did like throughout the film, there are little snatches of, as transitional material, we have helicopter shots of New York City while you hear little bits of like radio talk show chatter about what's going to happen at the new millennium. And frankly, like it felt real enough to me that I was like, wait, did this actually come out before 2000? But then there's also shit thrown in where it's like, there's some reference to religious groups doing, crimes, basically doing crimes. Religious groups are doing crimes, which I don't think happened at actual Y2K, but that it built the reality for me a little more. I liked that.
The reality.
Wow. The reality, the unreality.
Can I talk complete non sequitur, but like that's kind of this whole movie. I want to talk about one of my favorite things that happens in this movie that's completely fucking bananas. So Kevin Pollak is Arnold's side man. There's a scene
Butt buddy.
where, oh my God, there's a scene where, Buddy Chicago, the devil shows up nearby Arnold's apartment, and Buddy Chicago's leaving.
Buddy Chicago has the place like staked out, right? They're sort of protecting this woman, and Bobby Chicago's like in the van, looking out for trouble, looking out for the devil.
Yeah, Bobby Chicago. Sorry, not Buddy. Buddy Chicago's even better. The devil shows up in the guise of Gabriel Byrne, kind of off to the side in like the next patio over, takes a piss. And it leaks out toward Chicago's car, and it's gasoline. The devil pisses gasoline. He lights it on fire, blows up the car. Kevin Pollak does that. Chris, we were just talking about this recently, I feel like. Does the thing that the stunt actors who are caught on fire do, where he's just like lumbering around with his arms in the air. He can barely move because he's wearing this suit, flame retardant suit. We think he's dead.
Do we see him on fire in that scene?
I wrote down on my notes.
Or did you Mandela effect it? All right, you see that?
No.
Okay.
There's definitely a flaming... I think he might be mixing it up with a different... I feel like at the end, there's one of those scenes where someone gets lit on fire and they're like lumbering around, because I actually checked the credits because I thought for a moment that I had once interviewed and spent a day with the stunt performer who performed this full body burn, because he had talked to me about full body burns he had done. And I, for some reason, had this memory that this was one of the movies. It was not, I'm pretty sure, but that does happen. I think it's just later in the movie.
Yeah,
well, it could be Mandela effect because
I think what we see is his van explode in a huge fireball that he couldn't have survived, but we don't see what happens to him until later.
Well, we assume he's dead, but I wrote down in my notes, Kevin Pollak, stop, drop, and roll. So I don't know. I'll have to go back and review the tapes.
All right, then maybe.
I was maybe, but doubtful. But this isn't even it. Like, this isn't even the whole thing.
No.
When we see Kevin Pollak again, he shows up at Arnold's apartment. Arnold doesn't believe that he's alive because Arnold's having
Rightfully so.
visions and going through. He's an alcoholic. And he's going through all this crazy shit. And he
There's
shoots
no way
Kevin Pollak.
there's no way we see him burn because we as the audience don't know if he's the devil or not in that scene.
Don't know if who's the devil.
Who's the devil?
We don't know if Kevin Pollak's the devil or not in that scene because
He's
we
not
didn't
the
see
devil.
we didn't see
No.
him die.
Did
But
we
that's
ever think
that's
he
the
was the devil?
suspicion because he shows up and Arnold doesn't know if it's the devil or not, and we
So
don't
Arnold
know either
shoots
if the
him.
devil got to him.
This
Arnold shoots
is
him,
some
right?
Rashomon shit. Let me tell you how I experienced this. I was like, this motherfucker is absolutely dead. When we saw his van blow up in a fiery inferno, then he shows
Yes.
back up at
This much we do know.
Arnold's front. Well, Chris didn't. Chris was unclear, I think he's saying.
Well, we don't see him on fire.
You
That's
see
the
the
piece that we can
van
take
blow
our-
up
So
when
in
he
a
shows up,
fire.
We
it's
assume
like-
he's dead.
So when
Yeah.
he shows up, it's like, is he dead, reanimated by the devil, or was he unscathed somehow from this explosion?
And Arnold's
I never
immediate
thought he was-
reaction is like, no, like, you know, you died, like, you know, prove that you're a real person. And then he
Yes.
and
Yes.
and I left it at that. I think in my brain shut off at that moment and said, "Oh yeah, this is bullshit." And then I forgot about it until later when Bobby comes back again and is an ally. And the part that my brain somehow shut off and missed is that Arnold shoots Bobby, not
Yes,
sure
and
where
says-
exactly.
in the arm, and then you know, Bobby's like,
It's like, did it
"Fuck, you
hurt?"
shot me," and Arnold says, "It's just a scratch. Don't be a pussy."
But he also
That's the punchline to the whole arc that I'm setting up here. Is like, oh my god, I can't believe that is in a movie. Like, it's just clear that we're in 1999 territory.
He also later asked him, "Did it hurt? Does it hurt?" And Bobby's like, I mean, speaking for all of us, yes, it hurts. Like, you just shot me in the arm. And that, I guess, is somehow the proof that Bobby is okay and unharmed. Until, of course, later again, the movie backtracks on us again and says, no, the devil actually made a deal with Bobby to save his life in return for Bobby turning tail on Jericho Arnold.
Which makes me actually, okay, I forgot about that part. That makes me think we do see Bobby on fire for a second, probably. Because we as the audience, just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, are certain that he's dead.
Well, he goes against the devil and gets set on fire at the very end.
Yeah.
So that's probably when
That's
he does
it.
the full burn.
Hey, maybe
I
we
think
see it
that's
twice.
right.
I don't know.
Because he made the deal. He's like, you'd be surprised what deals you'd make when you're on fire, man. And then he turns against the devil, and the devil's like, all right, well, I'm taking back my deposit too, and you're on fire again.
I literally, when this movie was over, wound it back and went back to that scene where Bobby shows up at Arnold's apartment after the van having blown up, because I was truly confused. I think I must have just like looked at something on my phone or checked a text for a minute and just kind of tuned out for Arnold seeming to confirm that Bobby was the real deal by shooting him in the arm.
We spent so much time discussing this plot point that doesn't
That
matter.
means
whatsoever.
I know, but I brought it up
Barely a
because
spoiler.
I didn't expect so much resistance. I just brought it up because it was like, I feel like it's a good like microcosm of how fucking crazy this movie is.
No, I'm not
And that it
criticizing.
even comes with a punchline.
I'm not criticizing at all. We so regularly in the spoiler room wind up talking about all kinds of shit that is not even like spoilers or endgame third act really kind of material. We rushed into Times Square a little bit. We might have even, it might still be a few minutes to midnight. Might be 6 to midnight right now.
Who's to say? But it is funny. This and The Usual Suspects are two movies that came out in the 90s where like Gabriel Byrne pissing amidst fire is like a major plot point.
Oh, don't remember that in Usual Suspects.
It only happened twice, but that seems like a lot.
You know what it reminds me of?
Well, and we
is the
see him-
fucking dog pissing fire in whatever Freddy movie that was.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Or
Yes.
no,
It
that's
also
or
reminds
is that
me
Friday the 13th?
That's
No, it's
Freddy.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm
That's-
Street
that's
4.
Freddy.
Yeah. 4. Okay.
It reminds me of when we come full circle. We see Gabriel Byrne on fire in Hereditary.
Oh, wow. This is a shared universe, I think. Anyways, we're at this fucking Satan rave. Gabriel Byrne's about to impregnate Christine. I forget how this all goes exactly.
Arnold pulls out a gun and starts. Oh, he does a
Just
mass shooting. He does a mass shooting. And everyone flees. I don't know what happens. Arnold and Christine escape into the subway. And
for a truly insane sequence.
A pretty good subway sequence ensues where they're...
Is this the scene where Arnold does... It's in the trailer. Is this the scene where he's got the gun and he does the full 360 turn on his heels? Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know.
He probably does it in every movie, but in this one, it really cracked me up. Just if listeners watch the trailer, it's like a minute and 10 seconds long. You'll see the shot where Arnold is looking around with his gun and he does this like ballet-esque full 360 scoping the room while still walking, and it's hilarious. Anyway,
nice.
Sorry, Chris.
No, that's fine. Good action sequence on the subway. I forget the bits and pieces of it, but it was pretty good. And Gabriel Byrne's pursuing them on the trains. Eventually, there's like a runaway subway car. Arnold hits Gabriel Byrne square in the chest with like a 40 millimeter grenade from his underbarrel grenade launcher on his machine gun. Mm-hmm. Gabriel Byrne gets blown up and run over by the train, or the train crashes and he's in it. I don't know. Long story short, the body is... Satan says, all right, I can't use this body anymore. It was fun while it lasted. I gotta find a new body. CGI ghost devil reappears.
Malbolgia.
Mm-hmm.
It looks
Malbolgia.
It's very reminiscent of Malbolgia.
Oh yeah, should have been practical.
Just marginally better effects.
Cool.
Malbolgia floats through New York. Arnold and Christine go back to the church that they've been spending a lot of time in, and they make their stand, and Christine hides, and they're like, all right, if we could just, because Satan famously can't see into a church. So they're like, all right, I guess we'll hide out here. And while Christine hides, Arnold looks at the altar, and he kind of has a change of heart.
He starts looking at Jesus.
He starts looking at Jesus up on the cross. And the whole movie, the priests have been telling him, like, listen, like, you got to take this religious stuff seriously. You have to find your faith, etc. And he's like, I don't like God. We had a difference of opinion about if my wife and daughter should be murdered or not.
Jesus died for somebody's sins, but not mine.
But
Patty Smith for you.
He's seen so much, and as he stares at Jesus, he lays down. He lays down his gun. He lays his gun down, and he prays, and he asks Jesus for help.
I'm not cackling at your explanation. I'm just cackling at this moment because it was ludicrous.
It's insane
to me that it goes to this place. And so sincerely, I still, you talk about the irreverence. I think it is reverent as fuck in the end. It's all on board for
absolutely.
God. It's all on board for God.
In the final 15 minutes, absolutely, Patrick.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe not Catholic Church shit in particular. I don't think it's down with Catholicism, but it's down with Christian God.
It's
sure.
still goofy. I think you can have a sincerely presented character arc that involves Jesus without the movie actually being like a Christian film. Or exposing this as a point of view that you should adopt into your life.
So, okay, it's not like it's not a Kirk Cameron film. I feel like Kirk Cameron would approve of this film, though.
That's where I land on it, where it's like, I don't think this is a Christian film, but the morals of this film are purely Christian by the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're to believe in everything that's going on, like, it is to accept Christ into your life.
Mm-hmm. Which is,
really funny.
Frankly, a wild choice for this movie to make, because it didn't need to go there, but it completes this moral arc for Arnold that includes buying in fully to the Christian God and being immediately rewarded for it upon sacrificing oneself to kill Satan.
Y2K averted because he sacrificed himself to kill Satan.
Yeah,
then the movie just ends.
The devil,
you're not left with any.
The devil shows up. I don't know if they even fight at all, or if the devil just enters him and tries to possess him like Gabriel Byrne. And it works for a time, and Arnold goes over and gets Christine and is like, all right, Christine, it's safe. You don't have to be afraid anymore. Oh, but there's one more thing. And he takes her to the altar. He starts to do some things that make me uncomfortable, having read articles about Arnold Schwarzenegger before I watched this movie.
Starts farting in her face and shit.
And then he's like, wait, no. And he uses his willpower, just like I had to do this weekend, to throw himself onto a sword and kill himself.
And he says, he shakes his head. He's like struggling. He's like, run.
Yes.
And that's like all he can get out while he's being possessed.
I love it. Classic trope. When the hero's turning and he says, run from me, stay away from me. You know, Tom Cruise was originally going to play this.
I read that too. We must have read
Would
the
have
same
been a
Wikipedia
very
article.
different movie. Would have been a very different movie.
Deep research, folks.
Anyway, and so he dies, but more importantly, the new year rings in because the devil had a deadline. He had to do this during the year 1999 in the last, 3 hours or whatever.
In Eastern Standard Time.
Dude, that line was so fucking funny. When the priest or whoever is like trying to explain to him how this all came to be and how it has to happen within this window of time and how it goes back to the Gregorian calendar and shit. And they say like yes, like the devil's going to claim his bride between 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. 19, on
Eastern
this day,
Standard Time.
And he's like, Eastern Standard Time?
Well, he's giving him
great.
shit. Yeah, it's great. And that gives way to the more in-depth
And the movie is like,
explanation
yes,
that you just
Eastern
alluded to.
Standard Time is what the stars are aligned to.
Yes, basically. Yeah. But it's cool because, he's the perfect foil for these priests because he doesn't care. He doesn't believe in any of this stuff. And he's asking the questions we're asking the whole movie. Anyway, Devil runs out of time. Devil is annihilated. Devil is cast back to hell. That's
And
the end
Arnold
of the movie.
Arnold sees his wife and kid.
Oh, yeah. And they're beautiful. He sees his wife and daughter in the aisle of the church, radiant. And now he's going to be with them in heaven.
See, that is big Kirk Cameron energy right there.
Oh, yes, exactly. And let me tell you exactly how abruptly this film ends after that. I was sleepy while I was watching this movie, and I fell asleep like right after he saw his wife and daughter. I woke up during the credits. I was like, shit, what did I miss? Literally 30 seconds. I was asleep for 30 seconds, and then the Guns N' Roses song or whatever woke me up in the credits because it's just like, it goes straight from like him seeing the vision of his wife and daughter as he fades off into the afterlife to police cars like Tokyo drifting outside the church and then fade to credits. The end.
That's it. It's an abrupt ending. It's like a classic like 80s David Cronenberg movie. It's like, well, there's no more plot. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
That's your movie.
Love it.
That's the end of our days.
That's the beginning of my days enjoying Arnold Schwarzenegger movies I haven't seen. I want to watch The Sixth Day. I haven't seen that one. That's where he gets cloned.
Yeah. Great
There's
one.
a lot of
that
Arnold
being-
movies I want to see. I still have never seen fucking The Running Man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good.
That's lesser
It's
Arnold,
really
in my
good.
opinion.
Oh, okay.
I love The
Interesting.
Running Man.
All right,
I'd be down to
track
rewatch
that
it with
down.
you.
Let's do it. I also want to
That's a fun
rewatch
movie.
Total Recall, because that's a fucking total blast.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Commando, fucking hilarious. I love Commando.
Oh yeah.
Well, what the hell are we watching next time?
Yeah. Who's
Who is
up
choosing
next?
next
Oh, it's
time?
Wheel Time.
The
isn't it?
wheel gets to turn. All right,
Yes.
we have loaded every
This
horror
wheel's
movie.
on fire.
Every horror movie on Netflix loaded into a amazing cyber wheel. We're gonna give it a spin and figure out what the hell we're watching. All right, here it goes.
Hopefully, it was prepped for Y2K and doesn't tell us that we're watching 1820 London Beer Strikes Again.
Oh fuck, guys! Not to do two blockbusters back to back. We're watching The Ring.
Oh, okay.
Before you die, you're gonna see the Ring.
Naomi Watts, not like Japanese The Ring.
No, that's
like
Ringu.
Ringu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's Ping.
I still have never seen
Pingu.
Ringu. I wish I was
Neither
watching
have I.
Ringu. I mean,
Maybe I'll do that for research because
yes.
but I love The Ring
Me
and
too.
I have been thinking of revisiting it.
I
All right,
realized just recently that like The Ring 2 or Rings or whatever the sequel is called actually still has Naomi Watts in it. I didn't realize that I knew there was a sequel, but I didn't know it. I mean, because so often they do those like knockoff, like cheap sequels where you They do not stick to the same big name actors, and she's actually in it.
That'll be in 2 weeks. We're watching The Ring.
All right. Can't wait.
Yeah, barring any personal catastrophes, that will be in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
We'll
we've
see.
had a rough summer as a trio thus far.
And it's not even technically summer yet.
Yeah, true. It will be by
at
the
the
time
time
this
of
episode
airing,
comes
yes,
out, but not. Yeah, we're on like the solstice eve right now. It's like the December 31st, 1999 of summer 2023.
Wow, that was deranged.
All right, we'll see you next episode for The Ring. For every horror movie on Netflix, I'm Patrick.
I'm Chris.
And I've been Steven.
Goodbye.